All right, so let's join here. So the plan is we're going to do in this class, this recording, we're going to do lesson 3 from the current unit, but the Netflix Navigator project. And if you were I'm kind of doing things a little bit out of order. And the reason for that is I'm going to be out 3 days next week, only once for odd. Hold on. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. Wait, hold on. Even. Yeah, that's right. Only once for even days, but for the other classes twice. So I'm doing the lessons once in each class so that there will be recordings of each of them for you to work through next week when I'm not here. And those are all the assignments that are in the purple fill cells. And you're going to do whichever one you haven't done yet, or whichever ones you haven't done, all of which are going to be due next Friday. So we're going to do here in this recording and in this period, the Netflix and Navigator app. And hopefully it's one good, clean recording. The other updates, the late work that is outstanding, meaning hasn't been dealt yet, not super fantastic. The outstanding late work will be graded at the end of the unit, and then any late work requests, regrading requests, after that will not be graded until grading day. So if you need some incentive to turn in late work, that should be enough. Okay, so let's jump right in. Current unit, like I said, lesson 3. This is another lesson where there are a bunch of bubbles, all of which are related to the same 2 projects. We are doing, like I said, the Netflix Navigator one, and I recommend having 2 tabs open, one for bubble 1, so we can look at the example and jump back easily, and the other we're going to do almost everything in bubble 2 because it's the same workspace, meaning whichever bubble you go to, it'll still be your code. Nothing's going to change. But the only difference between them is the instructions for the step, one of like 6 different steps. But those instructions are also included in the, what's it called, in the comments throughout. So let me restart this. So it doesn't technically matter which bubble you do the work in, or it doesn't matter which bubble you do the work in, but the detailed instructions for whichever step are in the bubble about that. So if you need help, you can go to step 1 is in bubble 2, of course, because bubble 1 is the example. So let's take a look at the example. The example is this on bubble 1, and it is it's called Netflix Navigator, and it allows the user to cycle through a series of genres, and it allows the user to choose a range of years, and based on those choices, they can click on the dial button and get a movie that corresponds to those choices. Okay, it's pretty neat. The output is kind of generic. We've seen things like this, but the way they solve these different, or the way we are about to solve these different interactions, including having the button turn, is they're probably things you haven't seen yet. So let's go ahead and take a look, and we'll solve these steps one by one. And when we get here, let's see what we have working. When we get here, the button doesn't do anything. Well, there's an error. The year range does actually work. And the genre button doesn't do anything yet. Now, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here, and I want to show you because you don't need to move everything. But so for each one of the three buttons, genre button, year button, and dial button, they're not actually the picture of them. The button is actually clear with the border. The image is, well, there's the overlay, which is its own thing. And let's just put it over here for now. There is the image that this is genre image is the thing we're going to change or update in order to have the user give the user the ability to change genre. It's going to be just changing the image of this this image element. But the year image is actually a single image that moves. Clicking on the button moves the image behind the overlay so that you see through the slit in the overlay what position the range, the year range, is selected, which is a pretty clever way of doing that. We'll see that more when we get to that. And I'm actually just going to reset everything because that's a lot of stuff I just moved around. So you didn't need to do that other than just learning, seeing what's going on. The first step is getting the dial to work or getting the dial to spin. The dial button is our main like on-go event handler. And the first thing it does is rotate the dial. And that's all it does. Well, this first function. Then the other two functions, or the other two return functions, are the two steps of filtering. The first thing it does is it filters by the genre choice and actually returns a list of indices from the main list, you'll see in a second. And then it uses that filtered list to filter by years. So it's doing one filter, and then of all the ones that are successful for that match that genre, it then goes through and goes through those and checks to see if they're in the year range. And if they are in the year range, they're a double match. They're the ones we want, and we run display results. But like I said, let's solve rotate dial first. Rotate dial is, I'm just going to give you the answers or the code for this because it involves set style, which is a CSS cascading style sheet design block, which we don't even have blocks for. Technically, this code is created when the user sets parameters in design mode, and all the set style things are in the background, so we don't deal with them. But this is what's going to actually turn, seriously, this is what's actually going to turn the orientation of the dial by a certain number of degrees. Okay. And what we need to do is we look at this function. It's expecting to receive a random rotation. Well, it's expecting to receive a parameter. Based on the name, we can figure out that it's supposed to be a random amount of turning. So when we call it, it's only called in one place. It's only called down here. We need to send it a random number, which, let's go ahead and do that. Throw a random number in there. And this is going to be how many degrees it's going to turn when we click on the button, or the range that it could turn. So maybe something between 15 degrees is the smallest turn we're good with. And I mean, anything past 90, you won't be able to tell that it was a turn in the same direction. So maybe 80. So it always looks like it's turning a little bit to the right because angles are positive clockwise. And we are deciding the random number range, and we're deciding all positive because when we program it, we're going to receive that value and add it to our rotation before we reset or set the style, but it's resetting. So dial rotation, and this string right here, this concatenating, is a weird workaround to get the correct syntax for turning for setting the angle of an element, in this case, the image of the button. But the concatenating, sliding in there, is dial rotation is the value that we want to set. So in order to set dial, well, do we already have? Yeah, dial rotation is global, so we don't need to re-declare it. We are just going to update dial rotation. Dial rotation is going to get whatever it used to be plus random rotation. Okay, so we are receiving a value as a parameter. We are increasing our dial rotation by that amount. And then we are applying the new value to this. We just need to do the set style, and there's not really any way you would know this, but set style, the first parameter is, in quotes, the name of the element we want to turn, which is button image. It just happens to be. And the string that we want to send it to is whatever is the result of rotation string. This is where we're building the syntax, and that's what we want to be there. And I think this should work, at least for turning sake. No, it's not turning. Is it not button image? What is it called? Is it called dial image? Yeah, dial image, excuse me. Of course it's called dial image. Dial image. And when we click on it, there you go. It turns, and that's a thing. There you go. Okay, and I guess I'll be cleaning up code as I go, like the extra white space, just to make it look clean. If you do that, you'll be able to match my line numbers as we go, but that's not critical. You can always just look at what number we're trying to solve. In fact, no, we'll just stay here. Okay, thank you. So the next thing we're going to do is work on getting the button to change what's on it. Now, it is only called when the genre button is clicked. Okay, genre button, well, all these buttons, the first thing they do is they turn off the static picture, or they hide it technically. And it's turned back on when, or wait, no, this unhides it. It gets hidden once we have a result to display. And anytime you click on either the year button or the genre button, it turns it back on. And that's the interaction. But what we need to affect is the function cycle genre image. Cycle genre image is sending a variable called genre index. Now, genre index is a global okay. Genre index is a global variable that's keeping track of what genre we're looking at. Now, you'll notice that there are two different tables being used. One table is called genre and the genres, and the other one is the full Netflix table. And if we look at those, you can see that the Netflix table is the one you're familiar with. It's, a few hundred, maybe 1,000. How many is it? 4 times, maybe close to 2,000 lines with, all the information. The other table, genres, is just 13 lines long, and it only has 2 columns. It has a column which is the word of a genre, and the other column is an image that corresponds to this word. And those are the images that we're going to use. Now, genre image is affected by this button. This button is going to increase that genre index so that we're always looking, it's going to look at the next row, and we're going to use the image from whatever row we're on to set the image. But we need to keep track of where on this table we are, because that's where we're going to check to make sure we're going to use the word at that index that we're at genre index to do the comparison, but we're using the button to change that index. And for the sake here, I want to actually add a couple watchers. Please do this. The two that I want to add are, well, while we're working with the genre button, just genre index and user genre, genre image. Wait, can we? Okay, so let's console log. Where are we actually doing this? Cycle by image or cycle genre image. Let's do, okay. So we are receiving a parameter to make this function generalized, but we don't even really need to because genre index is global. So we're actually just going to ignore this. I'm not going to change it because somebody might be confused by it, but it says index is defined, but it's not called. Don't worry about that. So the first thing we have to do is increment genre index. So that means to go up by 1. And the first time I explained this, I did genre index gets genre index plus 1. But I really think at this point that's going to get crowded because a lot of the terms are similar. So what we're going to do is actually do the plus plus. Okay, so it's genre index plus plus, semicolon. Do that as the first step inside of cycle genre image. You will need to switch to text mode because I don't think they gave us the plus plus. No, it'd be nice. And okay, so we click here and we increment genre index. Then we need to set the image here to, well, actually, let's look at the function. The function is, what is it doing? Okay, the set property is down here in the button event handler. And the function is a return function. The result, whatever is returned to this function call, will become the set property, the set image property parameter, the last thing where we usually put, or where put the image URL or whatever. This entire return function becomes, or is designed to become, one of those image URLs from the genre list. Okay, so we are using this column, genre images, or I don't know what if the R list is genre images or genre use. Well, we'll see. It's the second list at the top. We're using this list, this column of image URLs to set the button's image every time we click on it. Okay, so the list of genre images is in a list called genre image, although I'd probably call it images. I'm not going to change it. And user genre is just the list of words. We don't need that yet because the images have the thing on it. So we are incrementing here in our cycle genre image button, incrementing genre index, and then we are just going to return what's going to give us the correct image URL string from the genre images list. So we're returning genre image at index genre index. So return genre image and then open square bracket genre index close square brackets. Okay, genre image at index genre index. Okay, return genre image at index genre index. All right, and then what's going to be sent back is whatever string is in the genre images list at our updated, our increased, like the next index. And when we run this, I do think it might actually work. Yeah, it does work. But you'll notice this watcher, when we get to, okay, it's cycling through. It might be a little lag, but that's fine. Genre index is 8, 9, 10, 11. We're at documentary. Genre index is 12. We click again. Genre index is 13, and nothing has changed. Genre index is 14. Nothing has changed. We're getting an error. The reason for that is we're looking every time we click on the button, we're increasing that variable. And when we check that increased variable, if we go past 12, past index 12, which is the 13th thing, there's nothing there. So what we need to do is check to make sure that if we're at the last index, we want the button to send the index back to 0. So before we send back, we need a little guard clause, a simple if statement beforehand. And if genre index, which is the thing we are increasing, if it's greater than, what's our list? Genre image dot length -1, which is the last index. So when we increase it, if it becomes larger than the last one, it's off the list. We need to reset it to 0. Okay, we are reassigning genre index to 0. That will make it go around in a cycle when we get to documentary. Okay, there, genre index. And it's going all the way around to, there we go. It went from documentary back to action. Okay, that little guard clause will keep it from going off of the lists. I'm going to clean it up here. There we go. Hold on a second, folks. You can take a second to look at this. Oh, all right. So we are able to cycle through the images, and now we can just do our filtering. All right. We know how this works. So this button is actually, what are we choosing? Okay, we'll deal with that when we get to filter by years. But we're gonna, the next step we do, step 2 is the cycle the image, which cycling the image does of course change the image, but sorry, this is a thing. Okay, sorry. We're using the button. When we click on the button, it cycles the image, but it's really changing the genre index. So we are going to use whatever's in the list of genre words from that index as our conditional, as part of our conditional when we go through all of the genres in the main list and check for matches. Okay, so whatever is in, let's see, we're looking at genre index 2, which is, if we're going to check the genres list at index 2, which is actually number 3, and it's comedies, which I think they cut off so that it matches comedians and everything else. If we're looking at index 2, or I guess drama would be index 3. If genre index is 3, this is the image on the button, but we're going to use what's in genre at that same index as our conditional to check to see if we get a match in the main Netflix list, which the Netflix list of genres is this super long, but you'll notice that the strings that are in the Netflix genre column are longer than just one type. It has all the different genres that the particular movie has. So we're actually going to use a dot includes method, which dot includes is similar to the dot substring thing, but it's asking a question. You're asking if, then the name of the string dot includes what you're testing for, meaning what does the first part, does it have the second part of that function call you'll see in a second. Okay, so let's go back to the code. And this function is called when we click on the button and filter by genre. What are we sending it when what are we expecting? Okay, filter by genre is expecting a value that is a string that is the word that's on this, but we don't want that button. We want whatever the word is at that position. So the name of the genre the button is looking at is whatever's in user genre at index, genre index. So filter by genre, we're going to send it whatever word is in user genre at genre index. And I want to, let's console log. Let's do a test console log. Let's console log that same thing and see what happens. User genre at index genre index, and we'll see what comes out in the debug console. And we hit run, excuse me, we hit run, we click on the button, and oh no, it's only going to happen when we click on the dial button. So when we click on the dial button, it should send out whatever genre we're looking at. There we go, fantasy. Okay, it's matching the row of the picture we're looking at with the words that are on the words list of the shorter table. Okay, so that works. And well, we are getting a word that matches the picture. And when we call that or in the function definition, that's what's being received. It's the word that the user is checking for. And first, we need to make sure, because this is the list of words that we might be sending it. It's initial caps and then lowercase. We need to make sure it matches the Netflix list, which, yes, the Netflix list, every word is initial caps. So what we need to do, let's look at the function. All these filter functions that are going to return a list, it doesn't matter what you name a list, but you do need a temporary list, which the rest of the function, we're going to do a loop and a filter type of thing, or a loop and a conditional that will be appending items to the temp list, and then we return whatever the result of that temp list is, which will be a full list of things that match. So what do we need to do? We're getting a word, and we need to go through the entire Netflix genre list, which is called Netflix genre. So we're going to do a loop. We're going to do a loop Netflix genre.length number of times. And every time through the loop, in every position being Netflix genre index I, as we go through it, if Netflix genre index I dot includes, and then open parentheses, genre, close parentheses. Okay. This genre right here is the parameter, whatever string is being passed. And Netflix genre index I is each row from the Netflix genre list. And dot includes, we're asking if that long string that says like family, international, comedy, that is Netflix genre index I, if that includes whatever was sent as the parameter, it's a match. And if it's a match, we want to append it to the temp list. And it doesn't matter at this point what temp list ends up being. We just know that when we call this function here, filtered by genre, it will become the list of matching, that match. But what are we actually supposed to send back? Okay, well, first of all, the thing we're appending to, the list we're appending to is temp list, because that's what we're going to ship back to it. But what we actually are collecting is not the string that matches, which is what we normally would do. What we're actually sending back, or going to send back, is I. I is the index we're checking. When we're, when we're done, temp list, which is what we're sending back, is going to be a list of indexes. It's weird to have a list of numbers that correspond to the rows in the main list that are matches. We aren't collecting the strings that are matches, because the strings that match are the long strings. And we're not collecting, at the append item situation, we're not collecting what's in the movie list at index I, because we still need to sort by year. We are going to send back just the list of numbers, which I want to send back, meaning it gets appended to temp list, and that full list is what gets returned. And so where this is happening, it's that temp list, because this return function turns into whatever that temp list returned, that's what gets assigned to random index values. And I want to console log that random, the filtered index values. So this list is going to be the list of rows from the table that are matches by genre. And when it's called, let's see here. So we'll pick a genre. How about adventure? We click on the button, and these are all of the rows from the main Netflix list that match this genre. And we can test this. Okay, we're looking at adventure, and we got 10, 12, 21 to start. If we choose drama and then filter, the rows that have drama are 2, 11, 24, 17, etc. Okay, and this is just a list like any other. This list is however many long, with each one having its index, but at index 70 is the number 253, which is the index in the Netflix list that has a match for whatever we're using, or for whatever genre. So what the years function is going to do, the years function is going to take this list, filtered index values, and use it to filter by release date. All right. And so depending on what function, what genre we're choosing, a different set of matching movies, which actually just the rows, will get applied, and we're going to use that list of matches, but like I said, the list of matching indexes, to do the filter by release function. So let's take a look at filter by release. Filter by release is expecting one parameter, and it's a list. The name of that parameter is list. A little on the nose, but here we are. We are going to go through that list of indices and check what's in the Netflix years list, release year, at that index, not the index I, but the index of the Netflix list, and see if it's in the range that we've chosen. Okay, so first we need to understand, well, we're going to loop. And when we loop, how many times are we going to loop? We're going to loop list.length number of times. And every time through the loop, like I said, we're going to check a bunch of things, and it's actually going to be a super long if else, but we are checking, technically speaking, we are, and I'm going to simplify it here in a second, we want to check whatever is in Netflix year list if Netflix years index list index I double equals what have you. So and then we would have two closed brackets because I'm going to change this, so don't worry about it. We are looking in the Netflix list at a particular index, and the index we're looking at is whatever in list at its index I. But we're going to simplify this by creating a simple one-use variable every time through the loop. This has to go inside the loop. And we need a name for the year that we're checking. How about test year is whatever in the Netflix, no, whatever is in, yeah, the Netflix list has our existing matches. So whatever's in Netflix year at index, no, wait, test year is whatever is in, what are we actually checking? We're going to check, no, Netflix year is what we are going to have in the check. So it's going to be, we need something for list index I. How about test? It's test index would be make more sense, because the test index we're looking at is we want the numbers that are on, I'm going to put that console log back, the console log, the filtered index values. Okay, because, so for action movies, let's reset and run, and we click the button. I think we're still going to get an error. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this list that is being printed out here is a list that is what's being sent to here. But if we use I as our counting variable as we go through, we don't want to check this index I. We want to check what's in the list at index 10. We want to check what's in the Netflix list at index 10, not index 1. So what we need is this number, not 1. We want what's in position 1 of this list, which is 10 in this case. So our test index is whatever is in list at its index I. So for the rest of the conditionals, we're going to use test index as a sort of shortcut for our situation. The other thing we need to note is that the range of years is based on year index, which we can go ahead. I'd like to console log, or let's do a watcher for year index is the name of the global variable that, where are we? Let's get rid of this. Okay, year index is keeping track of where the year button is, which if you run it and click on the button, you can, oh, I didn't add it. You can see year index cycles through 0 through 4. And it's based on where I showed you this before, the actual image is just moving up every time you click it, and it's moving up based on where year index is. Okay, so the cycling the year image is done by cycle Y value, and we don't need to fix it. It works. But what it's doing is updating year index to whatever it's incremented. And this line right here is making sure that it doesn't go over. Before we used if it's past whatever, set it to 0. Here they just are using mod to make sure that it doesn't go over the limit. And the way it's moving is it's setting the Y value of that picture that's moving to 36 pixels less than what it was before based on year index. But that's just what's moving. Year index is what this button is changing. And based on that, the image is changing and year index is changing. And year index is what we're using to check if we get a match. Okay, and let me put this back, please. Fits good. So as part of our match, we want to check first what year index we are in. And so this is going to be a lot like the Dog Finder app, where we had the if else if string series was checking both for a range and the user's input of small, medium, or large. That's what we're going to do here. First, we're going to check to see which year index we are looking at. If year index double equals 0, and what's our first range is years before 1990. So how are we checking the years? The years are in Netflix. Is it called Netflix year? Netflix year index test index. Okay, so we're checking if year index is 0, meaning this is set to its first position, and whatever is in Netflix year index test index, that's going to be the year that is in, whatever. It's, by the time I explain it, it's all lost. If what's in year list at test index is less than 1990, it's a match. It's something that we want. We want the movie that is in the row test index if we get a match for a year when the year index is 0, when the button's on the first position. Okay. And if we get a match, we want to append to the temp list, because temp list is what is going to be sent back. It's already set up for you, return temp list. And so temp list is what we're adding. And this is where we are actually collecting the movie titles. So we want whatever is in Netflix title at test index. Okay, and if we're set to the first, this may actually work. If we're set to index, oh no, it's not going to work because we don't have display yet. But we could, let's do a console log here to make sure something is happening. So let's console log where it's supposed to make it to, which is after filter by release year, gets assigned whatever the result of that temp list becomes filtered movie titles. That is our final filtering that we're looking for. And that means right now our only conditional that works is the first one, or the only one that might work is the first one. When we click on the button, we should get an action movie that's older than 1990 as an output. No. Line 59. Oh, shoot. I'll put this back. You don't need to change this. Let's see right here. It's just not letting me run it. Okay, action movie before 1990. And oh, we get the full list. Okay, so that's good to know. We are getting the full list of movies that match both year and well, the first year. The first year, um, the first year index, before 1990. And that's what we're going to use to pick one at random to put up here. Now, it should work. I suppose these are action movies, sure. How about what's one we might know? Fantasy before 1990. Click search. And Forbidden Planet, Twilight Zone. There we go. Star Trek. I guess that counts as fantasy. But either way, we're getting different lists. They're all before 1990. This works in theory. Now we just need to flesh out the rest of the matches, which we are going to have 5 separate rows for year index 0 through 4, which are these ranges. And the last one, I don't think can be a else. We need 5 else ifs, which means go down until there's a 6th and then hit back, or you can just go into the text mode. But we need a total of 5, which is the one we've done, plus 4 more else if statements or else if condition checking. And each one of these, if we get a match, we're going to keep it. So they're all getting the append item. The question is, what do we consider a match here? Okay, so our second one is if year index double equals 1. And what's our range? Okay, we need to be between 1991 and 1999. So the thing we're checking is Netflix year at index test index. Netflix year at index test index, which is going to be the actual year we're checking. If that is greater than or equal to 1991, and I'll switch it to text mode as I type it so it doesn't look weird, or I'll go back and forth. Okay, so this is going to be a triple and, or a double and, but 3 statements. If year index double equals 1, if Netflix year at index test index is greater than or equal to 1991, and Netflix year at index test index is less than or equal to 1999, it's a match for year 1. So it's 3 separate things. Year index double equals 1. We're checking the second set of years, which is 1991 to 99. And the year from the list of Netflix years is greater than 1991. And the year from the list of Netflix years is less than 1999, excuse me. It's a match for index 1. And it'll end up looking like this, kind of crowded. But the rest of these for year index 2, 3, and 4, well, I guess 4 is going to look a lot like 0 because it's everything since. But the other 2 are going to be almost exactly the same as what we have for index 1, which I hesitate to say copy and paste, because if you copy and paste the wrong number of parentheses, it's not going to let you go back. It'll be broken unless you can figure it out. So we're going to copy everything between the parentheses, and we're going to place it in between these parentheses, getting rid of the that gap there. Okay, making sure that we are not collecting the parentheses when we copy and not erasing the parentheses when we paste. But we just need to change a few things. Okay, so we got our year index 1 correct. We just need to change the numbers for year index 2. And year index 2 is between 2000 and 2005 for year index 2. And the next one, the year index 3, is here. We are testing year index 3. If year index double equals 3 and Netflix year test index is greater than or equal to 2006 and less than or equal to 2015, that's our year index 3. And our year index 4 is just a single one, which is kind of closer to our 0, which we are checking year index 4. And oh, I didn't copy it. Did I replace the other one? Oh yeah, I broke it. There we go. Let's copy that. Paste that. Okay, so the last one is if year index 4 and Netflix at test index is greater than 2015. So we have 5 conditions that we're checking for, each based on year index. So it should look something like this. All right, so each path is a different year index. And if the year index matches the range that we're checking for that index, it's a match. And those movies get added to our temp list, which is what we ship back. Okay, because Netflix year at test index means it's a list of matching genres. Or list is a list of matching genres, or movies that match genres, or technically rows of movies that match genres. And if we go through that list of indexes in the Netflix list, we find matches for years and send back the list of matches, which when we send back, it's the actual movie, Netflix title at whatever index we're checking is what gets sent back with temp list. Okay, I can come back to this at the end, but I want to keep moving for the sake of the recording, and we'll do individual bug stuff later. So our filtered movie titles should work for every year now, which let's see here. We do this, should be able to go to the third one, and we click on this, and we get a list of, eventually, movies that are, I have action between 2000 and 2005. That looks right. Let's try a different genre, like comedy and recent. Oh, wait, that's supposed to be 2016 to present. Oh, no, greater than 2015 is 2016 to present, same thing. And we search here, and we get all the comedy movies. There's a second table. Yeah. This is a list of the comedy movies since 2015. So we're getting different outputs, which is what we want. Okay. And our last step is making sure the result shows up. And if we look at display result, it's expecting a filtered list, meaning in this case, the list of full movie titles, which is filtered movie titles. And that is what we're going to send back when we call display results. So display results now has a list of movie titles that match both genre and year range. And that list is right there. We want to pick one of them at random. So, I mean, we could do it all in one line of code, but I'm going to make an index called rand index. And rand index is just going to be a number chosen at random that corresponds to a valid index of this list. And what you saw before, the action movies from 2005 had like 10 movies in it, and comedies since 2016 had 100 in it. We don't know how long filtered list is, but we do know that there is always going to be something between index 0 and the length of the list -1. So filtered list dot length minus 1. So if the list has 100 items in it, we know that there is that range of indices, of indexes, is between 0 and 99, which means no matter what random number gets sent or gets assigned to rand index, it will be a valid index of this, assuming there's no empty, which we do need to check for empty. Okay, let's do that first, because you can't pull a random index from an empty list. If the combination of genre and year returns no items, no movie names, this will break it, because we're looking for something in filter list.length, but it doesn't have a length in empty list. Oh, wait, I guess it does. But either way, we don't need to do that. What we need to do is first check. So we're going to have an if else, and we can put our empty list situation first. So if filter list.length is 0, filter list.length double equals 0, it's an empty list, and we want to set the text of, what is the name of the design element behind there? It's probably output text, I believe, is the name of it. So if the list is empty, we can, wait, is this function is not a return function. It's just calling it. Okay, because it's not assigned anywhere. It's not, it's a return function if it's in the variable assignment. It's a return function if it's in the conditional thing. If you had a return function in the condition statement, that this return function is designed to return true or false. It could be used that way. But here, this function, as is just calling a function. So it is the responsibility of that function to do the set properties, where before we were not setting properties, we were just returning strings. So this is not a return function. If the list that it gets sent is empty, if it's not filtered list.length double equals 0. If its length is 0, meaning this is an empty list, we want to set the text of output text to something that makes sense, like sorry, try again, or no matches, or something like that. No matches. Try again. Whatever, something that makes sense. It doesn't matter. But if it's not empty, which is our else, we want to pick a random number that corresponds to a valid index from that list, and then we can just set the text of the output text to whatever's in our filtered list, which is our list of matching movies, at index rand index. And that may actually be it. Run, we choose a thing and choose a thing, and we click on the button. And do we get a name? Yay, we get a name. We click on again, we should get a different name. And it's working. I'm going to get rid of that console log because it's filling up my screen. I don't like it. And we run again. Okay, so takes a second to load. Is that change genre, and it turns the static back on, which is actually a pretty neat feature. And our design situation. And there you go. I do believe that's it. Let's see. I'll do a quick scroll through the code, both in block mode and in text mode here. This line right here, I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be. It looks like it's trying to give you an idea of what return functions are supposed to look like, except they've put the explanation in a variable thing. I don't know. Don't worry about that. Okay, we wrote rotation dial, just turns the dial, and that's all it does. The function doesn't do anything. It just changes the angle with the random rotation sent to it. And that increases the dial rotation or the dial angle. And that string is the syntax for set style. Then we set the function for the genre button by, when it's clicked, this function gets called genre index increments. It goes up by 1. And then we check to see if we've gone past the number of genre images there are, which is only 12. And if we get past the number of items in that list, we set it back to the beginning. And we send back whatever is in the genre image list at our current genre index, which is a string, an image string, and that's how this image is set. Okay, the third step was working through the 2 ways we filtered. First, we filter by genre, and we keep the list of the indexes from that search and use those to search by year. The search by genre or filter by genre is the same as any list return function where we set up a temporary list just to collect things, and that's the thing that we ship back. And throughout it, we need to pick to see if the string that is in each row of the full Netflix genre list includes whatever genre we sent. And if it does, it gets added to that list. But we actually are just keeping what row in the Netflix list we get a genre match. And that is what we use when we do filter by movie titles. We use that list of indexes as as part of our conditional for checking to see if we get a match by year, which we're going to go through and go to every row or every index in list. And we've created a little temporary one because list index I is actually the index of the Netflix list we're interested in. So test index is, like I said, what we're checking. There are 5 different year index values, 0 through 4. And we want matches that are wherever the button is looking at, the year index, and that particular range. And whenever we get matches for that particular time we run through, we add those matches to our temp list. That's what gets shipped back to this and assigned to filtered movie titles. And then we use filtered movie titles to display results. And display results should look very familiar, where we are just checking to see if the list is empty, and we send it that, which I'm guessing there's some combination. What do you think there is the combination of? Probably, I don't know. We'll figure out one. But if it's not empty, we pick a random index from that list and set the text to whatever is in the filtered list of movies that are double matches at whatever random index we decided. And I think that's it. I don't think there's that much changing in the, yeah, we didn't change very much in the event handlers except for what the parameters were in the calls. We needed to add the parameter to rotate dial. You can choose something that makes sense. I have the dial moving between 15 and 80 degrees every time you click it, which I might even lower that because I don't think it makes sense to have, I don't, whatever. It's just how much it turns. It's not important. Maybe I'll go 45. And that's what that parameter was. I think that looks kind of cool. And yeah, that's it. Okay, I'll go back up to the top in text mode so you can see what issues you have. So here you go, same thing in text mode. Okay, step 1 was rotate dial. Step 2, cycle through the genre images on the genre button. Step 3 is filter by genre, keeping only the indexes that match, that are genre matches. And then step 4, checking those indexes in the year list to see if we get a double match. And if it is a double match, it gets sent back, and then we send it to the filter or the display results function, which sets the screen. And then again, the only other changes were the parameters in the various function calls. Well, the return function calls. Okay, and that's where I'm going to end it. We can do questions directly.